guys to feel good about being taken. And if we get to the 8th round and we don't know a guy and we don't get information, we'll Google. We may look a little crazy, frantically typing on our computers, but we will do our best to find information about these players.
Yeah, help us fill in the blanks. The best thing that ever happened was several years ago when Jim said, I don't know that guy. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. And now we'll always backtrack so we can give each guy his due.
Yes, and we want you to have your moment. And I'll add this to the mix. I think I did this one year, and it worked out for a couple players. If you're a player or a friend, family of a player, you're watching, you're listening to us, at Scott Braun on Twitter or Instagram, send me a note if you want to personally say hello. I think we've gotten a couple shout-outs from players saying, hey, thrilled to be watching the broadcast on MLB.com. Thanks for calling out my name. Any information, any thoughts, feelings, whatever it is that's going on, because this is a huge moment for so many players, and there's so many people that are watching right now across the world, really, to see if their name is selected right here on MLB.com. So round 3 coming up really soon, pick number 79. So if you're just joining us, hello, Scott Braun, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo. Round number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 today, and then we'll do 11 through 40 tomorrow. And we are seconds away from the Baltimore Orioles making another selection. And this is a team that finished last overall in Major League Baseball last year. That's why they get the number 1 pick. They take Adley Rutschman. That's the name that you guys had pinpointed as number 1 overall. They do that. They pull no surprises, and it's the first time that they've had a number 1 pick since 1989. They took Ben McDonald, so this is only the second time they've ever had a number 1 pick. And also, the last catcher to go 1-1, Joe Mauer, back in 2001. So this seemed like a home run for them. Not just a safe pick, but a guy who stands out in terms of what he brings to the table as a catcher that can really bring it offensively, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just a defensive guy you hope he hits, or this massive slugger you hope can stay behind the plate. He's a legit dude. I also like their second pick. Gunnar Henderson was a guy we both projected to go in the first round. Yep. He has a good chance to stay at shortstop. He got faster and quicker and stronger this year, and he can really hit. So I like what they did with their top 2 picks. Kyle Stowers out of Stanford has a chance to be a good all-around guy. Who do you got here leading off the 3rd round, Jonathan? You got a name?
I do not have a name. I'm working it right now, but I don't have anybody.
I don't officially have a name, but I'm going to just take a wild guess.
Go for it.
I'm going to throw this out. I have no inkling. This is just me guessing. Will Holland from Auburn was a guy who we talked about briefly on the top unsigned college guys, was a guy who had first-round tools, and he coming into the year looked like a slam-dunk first-rounder, didn't get off to a great start, was better toward the end. I'm just going to throw a dart and say Will Holland. So that's my free advice to the Orioles.
Last year, didn't one of you have the first name in the 3rd round? I think
that was me.
That was you, right?
But it wasn't like I was guessing. If Jim gets this right, I'm leaving.
If Jim gets this right, then it's a flashback to what year.
I didn't get tipped this year. A lot of times the teams will tell us that...
especially Orioles, with this pick.
Right, exactly.
There are no surprises. The Orioles, you would think at this point, know who they're taking.
I would think.
They've got this lined up. But then after that, it's a mad rush, and that's why it makes a day like today so difficult, and that's why these teams put this together for such a long time. And the boards for a draft like this are out of control because the way that they have things listed, I mean, you just don't know once you get to round 8 if there's a guy that you still had pinpointed much earlier, and the lists for each team are so different, even today still.
Of course. I mean, everyone's seeing the same guys, but especially as you go further on, you're relying on your area scouts a lot. So if your area scout loves a college senior, we're going to see a lot of those college seniors go to save money, but that doesn't mean that those aren't good players. So if you have an area scout from the Midwest who loves college senior X in Indiana, then you may take them.
What do you have?
I think I know who's going 3-1 now.
Oh, 3-1. Can you say it?
Nail it.
You like that? Zach Watson out of LSU. Okay. Center fielder. He can really run, really play defense.
Well, wait to break him down until he's announced.
Oh, that's true. We'll save the scouting report. But it looks like Zach Watson, very good tools, very good college performer, and we'll tell you more about him shortly.
Of course, every team wants to continue to fill up their minor league system. It's such a huge part of the major league game, and also just having the depth, too. But I mentioned the word depth because for Baltimore, this is a team that's rebuilding big time. It's quality, but it's also quantity. They really need to fill up their minor league system in terms of what they have at each position, too.
Right. And the nice thing is, they're not 1 or 2 years away. So you can literally take the approach, let's take the best player. If we get 4 shortstops in the first 6 rounds, which I don't think they're necessarily going to do, okay, but you take the best player. You're not trying to fill specific needs. You need a lot, and so you just go out and grab as much talent as you can and go from there.
And we'll pick out some trends and some themes. I remember last year, the Kansas City Royals kept going with college pitchers. That was a big theme for them. Let's listen to the Baltimore Orioles now.
The Baltimore Orioles select redraft number 1291.
Okay, round 3, pick 79, coming very soon. We'll get it from the Baltimore Orioles. They are officially on the clock, and Jim thinks he's got it. So, Jonathan, now you're not going to leave the set if he gets the pick right?
No, that's different. Getting information.
If you get the pick from someone.
Just wildly, guessing like he just graduated from Hogwarts is
pick 79
will
like
make me leave.
Okay, the pick coming in. We'll get the audio for the rest of the picks here. It already came into us, actually, and Jim, you got it. Zach Watson is selected by the Baltimore Orioles, number 79 overall, 21 years old, out of LSU. And what else can you tell us?
He's been a solid performer for 3 years for LSU. He was part of their College World Series team that went to the finals in 2017. It's hit over power. He does get a little home run happy at times. I think he can hit for a higher average if it's a little bit more of a line drive approach, but he's got some sneaky pop. 70 runner, at least a 60 center fielder. We're going to be throwing a lot of scouting grade numbers out, so 20 to 80 where 50's average. Not a big physically imposing guy, but he can drive the ball. You can see here. His arm plays pretty close to average too. So you're getting a guy who can contribute in a lot of different ways. Really run the bases well. Play very quality defense. Not quite as good, but very close to Andrew Stevenson, who played for LSU in center field before him, and he's produced for 3 years in the SEC. So I don't know even know if I'd carry a performance pick, a tools pick. He's got both for you, so it's a good pick.
And you're 1 for 1 so far.
Well, I got tipped off.
Third round mock is on. Okay, so Kansas City Royals, you're up next.
Kansas City Royals select ID 853, Gambrell Grant, right-handed pitcher, Oregon State University.
Kansas City selects Grant Gambrell, a right-handed pitcher from Oregon State.
Congratulations to Grant Gambrell, 6'4", 225-pound junior out of Oregon State.
Yeah, it's got a lot of arm strength. You mentioned the 6'4" frame. 3-pitch mix, I think, gives him a chance to start up to 95, sits 92, 93. It's got some good life and some sink to the arm side, so it's not just a straight fastball. He uses his slider a lot. It's average, but it's got good angle and some depth to it. And he's got an average changeup as well. I think he throws strikes, but it's more control over command, and that is going to be the key as to whether or not he does stick in a rotation. But with the size and the 3-pitch mix, I think he has a chance to be kind of one of those durable innings eater types in a big league rotation. Stuff will probably tick up a little bit if he had to eventually move to the bullpen.
4.4 ERA last year, so a much better season this year for Oregon State.
Yeah, he did. And at this point, it's stuff over performance.
And the White Sox are up.
White Sox select draft ID 6280, Dahlquist Andrew, right-handed pitcher, Redondo Union High School, Redondo Beach, California.
Chicago White Sox select Andrew Dahlquist, a right-handed pitcher, Redondo Union High School, Redondo Beach, California.
Jonathan, what are the White Sox getting in Andrew Dahlquist?
A projectable high school right-hander. This may be a guy who's a bit of a over pick value sign. He is committed to go to the University of Arizona, but he's going to add some strength to that 6'2" frame. He's already added some velocity. 91 to 93. He'll touch 95 now. I think there's going to be more consistent velocity. He's got a 4-seamer and a 2-seamer. Good extension, so that adds some deception as well. Pretty good curveball. The changeup has a chance to be good. And he throws a slider. He hasn't had to use the changeup all that much, but he's athletic, so I think there's a chance that he's going to get a better feel for that pitch and add command, especially as he fills out that frame.
And we pick a word from the MLBpipeline.com dictionary, and you put projectability in your write-up.
Right. That's the bingo if we're playing.
Yes.
Yeah. Scouty bingo.
It's a big word. You'll hear it a few times over the next few hours. Up next, the Miami Marlins.
Marlins select draft ID 4145, Burdick Peyton, center fielder from Wright State University.
Miami selects Peyton Burdick, a center fielder from Wright State University.
And we talk about athletes in this draft and how that's always a focus for teams, especially nowadays. This one is certainly an athlete on that list.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's the Horizon League Player of the Year. Huge numbers, had an ops around 1,200, a lot more walks and strikeouts, almost 20 stolen bases. The thing that stands out to me the most with Peyton Burdick is the raw power. I've gotten some 65s and 70s on the 20-80 scale on the raw power. Very strong kid, bat speed. You can see the ball jumps off his bat pretty well. I think he projects more as a right fielder. We'll see where he winds up. He had Tommy John in the past. His arm has bounced back. It's at least solid. Some guys will say plus. Average runner, very physical player, 6 foot, 210, a lot of athleticism in there. A lot of power, performance at a kind of a lower level of college, but tremendous numbers for him and some really interesting tools.
And also a crazy story, hit by a comebacker. At one point he said he couldn't see out of one of his eyes for a couple days and clearly bounced back from that as well. The Detroit Tigers have the next pick.
The Detroit Tigers select draft ID 8622, Lipsius Andre, third baseman, University of Tennessee.
Detroit selects Andre Lipsius, a third baseman from the University of Tennessee.
And if you're a fan of the Tennessee Volunteers, you know about Andre and his twin brother Luke on the squad as well.
Yeah, we'll see if Luke gets drafted later. He's got some power, but he broke his foot, fouled a ball off of it. You know, Andre is very interesting. When he first got to Tennessee, he was kind of more of a contact over power guy, and now the power's really come out. It's kind of a balance. He's got very good hand-eye coordination, masters the strike zone very well, makes a lot of hard contact. He's turned it loose a little bit more this year. Still drawing a lot of walks, but hitting for more power. Not much of a runner, so I mean, most of his value is going to come from his bat and his power. He can play third base. He's not the quickest guy there, but he's pretty good reactions. I think he's at least an adequate defender at third base. He's got hands. He's got the arm strength to stay there. Obviously, you want him to stay at the hot corner if you can, because the profile has to be raised offensively if he moves over to first base. But pretty interesting bat here.
And he's ranked number 145 overall on MLBpipeline.com. The San Diego Padres have the next pick.
Padres select draft ID number 3669, Head Hudson. He's a center fielder from Winston Churchill High School, San Antonio, Texas.
Hudson Head is the pick. He's 18 years old, and I see the MLB comp listed as Dustin Fowler, who's currently in the Oakland A's system playing AAA ball.
Yeah, I've heard that come. You know what's really interesting about him is Hudson Head was a guy who popped up a little bit out of nowhere because he wasn't a big showcase guy last summer. Didn't stand out in Jupiter in the fall. And he winds up going to the third round of the Padres. And 2 years ago, the Padres did the exact same thing. There was a pop-up outfielder in Texas named Mason House, and they also took him in the third round. But Hudson Head is really interesting. He's got advanced feel for hitting. You can see here, we saw that swing there. He's got some wiry strength. He's got good snap in his wrists. He's got a quick bat. There's raw power in there. Offensive potential is very good, but he doesn't have a lot of track record in his quality competition. He could be solid or better tools across the board. It's plus runner. It's solid arm strength. He needs to improve in center field. He's a little bit raw out there, but he has the speed and the quickness to play out there. Really exciting guy here. And like I said, it just kind of tickled me a little bit that the Padres did the exact same thing 2 years ago with the pop-up outfielder from Texas, Mason House, in the third round, and here they get Hudson Head.
He's committed to Oklahoma, so there's still a chance that he goes to school? No?
Well, there's a chance, yes, but I don't think you're taking him this early in the third round if you haven't made the call to find out what it's going to cost.
That's the 84th pick of the draft. This is 85.
Red select ID 5403, Callahan Tyler. He's like him listed as a second baseman from Providence School of Jacksonville, Florida.
Cincinnati selects Tyler Callahan, a second baseman from Providence School in Jacksonville, Florida.
Tyler Callahan is the selection, Jonathan, and he looks like he has a pretty big comp on your list, too. Am I seeing a Kyle Schwarber comparison?
Yeah, if it works, sure. He can really hit. I mean, he was one of the better high school hitters, and I think both Jim and I actually had him in our first round projections. Going late in the first round. There's some power there. It's a good left-handed bat. I think the biggest question is where he was going to play defensively. He played mostly third in high school. It's interesting to see that the Reds listed him at second base. The Reds are a team that like moving guys around and trying different things. We talked a lot yesterday about, especially with shifts, and we've seen Max Muncy and we've seen Mike Moustakas play second base. He's even tried catching a little bit this spring to show some flexibility because he does have some arm strength. But you're really buying the bat here. I mean, he has a chance to hit for average and power, and the bat really works.
And the last 2 picks for the Reds, prep picks, they also took Rhys Hines in their last pick. Let's go to the Rangers.
Rangers select ID 1509 Slayton, first name Justin. He's a right-handed pitcher from the University of New Mexico, hometown Longview, Texas.
Texas selects Justin Slayton, a right-handed pitcher from the University of New Mexico.
Congratulations to Justin Slayton, picked by the Texas Rangers, the Friday night starter for the Lobos, and he thrived this year after more of a down sophomore season.
Yeah, he was really rocky his sophomore year, had a really good year this year. Mostly 2 pitches, a fastball that'll touch the mid-90s at times, more control over command. He does have a decent slider that flashes above average at times. He'll throw a curveball. There is a changeup in there. So he probably ends up being a reliever when all is said and done. But I think maybe you send him out as a starter, see if he can tighten up those secondary pitches, find more of a changeup and improve his command, knowing that if you put him in the bullpen, the fastball slider combination probably ticks up a little bit.
That's number 86 overall to the Texas Rangers. Coming up next, the San Francisco Giants. We are in round 3. We're going up to round 10 of the 2019 MLB Draft today. San Francisco Giants, you're up.
Giants select draft ID 9273 Grant McCray, a center fielder from Lakewood Ranch High School, Bradenton, Florida.
The Giants select Grant McCray, a center fielder, Lakewood Ranch High School in Bradenton, Florida.
That's your neck of the woods, Jonathan. What have you seen from Grant McCray?
Well, I mean, probably the best thing about Grant McCray is that his dad, do you remember the video of Rodney McCray crashing through the minor league wall?
Yes.
That's his dad.
Wow.
Yeah. Grant McCray is kind of raw and toolsy. This is a bit of a projection pick. If you saw him on a good day, he'll flash above average to plus tools kind of across the board, but it's inconsistent. It's probably going to take some time with the bat, but he can run. He can play the outfield. The speed works on both sides of the ball. So he's probably the kind of guy that may spend a couple of summers, in extended spring training as they work on getting that bat going, adding strength, and that's the biggest thing for him. He needs to add some strength. But you could end up really hitting big with a guy like this. This is kind of a high-risk, high-reward high school pick.
He might be more talented than his dad, but how are you going to top that highlight?
The dad played pro ball for a really long time. Let's not sell him short.
True. Let's go to the Blue Jays.
Toronto selects ID number 223, Desan Brown, center fielder, Abbey Park High School, Ontario, Canada.
And the Toronto Blue Jays going with a fellow Canadian to join the team, which always the fan base appreciates. And if he makes it up to the Major League squad, they would love.
It is the 6th tool for the Blue Jays scouting staff, being Canadian. And it's not just because of the free medical care, I don't think. We're having a little run here on athletic Toolsy High School outfielders. And Desan Brown has one of the better run grades. It's a 70 run. It's well above average. He's going to steal bases. It helps him play an above average to plus center field. The one thing is the bat. Again, he needs to add some strength. It was hard to evaluate him because most scouts evaluate the high schoolers from Canada when they're in Florida playing against professional teams. Right? So he's seeing a much higher level of pitching, and he struggled a little bit there. It wasn't one of these, like one of the Naylor brothers who hit pro pitching as a high schooler coming out of Canada, but I think it's in there. He just needs to add some strength. I know one area scout who just really loved the tools and think it is all going to come together for him, and he has a chance again to be kind of a 4 or 5 tool center fielder.
Ranked number 103 overall by MLB.com. Here are the Mets pick.
Mets select ID 9424 Allen Matthew, right-handed pitcher, Seminole High School, Sanford, Florida.
Matthew Allen going to the New York Mets, and also a Sunshine State guy.
This would not have been the team I would have guessed to do that because the Mets did not have a ton of extra picks. But, we all had Matthew Allen going maybe as high as number 10 in the draft. This is the top high school pitcher on our board. He looks like the kind of strong, there's some projection, but there's a lot of now stuff from him. 3 above average plus pitches. He commands the ball well. I think he is going to eat up a lot of innings. At the very least, he's a mid-rotation workhorse. At best, he's a frontline starter. The Mets will, try to find time to, make this deal done. I don't think he goes right now if they haven't figured out the money.
I agree, and it makes you wonder. They did take Brett Beatty at 12. I love the pick. I wonder if they saved a little money there. And I'm with Jonathan. I don't think you take this guy in the 3rd round hoping you can sign him. I think you take him knowing you're going to sign him. So I'll be very curious. We'd heard a $4 million price tag. $4 million in the 3rd round without a lot of extra picks is not easy to do. But kudos to the Mets if they pull this off, because if they'd taken him at 12, that would have been a good pick. So it's like if they sign him, that's 2 first rounders.
They got 2 first rounders.
And it's 2 upper half of the first rounders.
Yeah, you guys have him ranked number 13 overall in this draft.
Best polished high school arm in the class.
And we're at pick 89. Now pick 90. It's the Twins.
Twins select redraft 6029, Steer Spencer, shortstop from University of Oregon.
Minnesota Twins going with Spencer Steer. You can see 21 years old, 5'11", out of Long Beach, California, and previously drafted actually in 2016 in the 29th round by the Cleveland Indians. All Pac-12 conference team selection this year. So what did the Minnesota Twins get?
We were giving him back to the Indians there for a second. It took him in 2016. He's a good bat-to-ball skills. He doesn't strike out a lot. Had a good Cape Cod league, which I think that helps him. He played along with J.J. Bleday on the same team. So this is a guy who I think has a chance to hit. He's going to get on base. I think he's probably a second baseman when all is said and done, but maybe he's a super utility guy. These days, positional flexibility, and he's shown the ability already to move around the diamond a little bit. And you see here his college performer in terms of average and on-base ability. Not a ton of extra base pop, but he's the kind of guy who's going to just put the ball in play and not strike out a ton.
Hitting wherever he's been. Let's go to the Phillies. They're at pick 91 overall.
The Phillies, in honor of David Montgomery, select ID number 193, Baylor Jamari, shortstop, Benedictine School, Virginia.
Jamari Baylor is the selection for the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's out of Virginia.
It's kind of an interesting guy here. He moved to a military prep school, reclassified because he was really young for his grade, repeated the 11th grade, and that allowed everything from physical and sort of emotional maturity, and then his baseball skills started showing up a little bit more. He's got a ton of tools. He'll show flashes of all of them, but it's inconsistent. It sounds like I've said that a lot, but we're having a nice run on toolsy high school outfielders. This is a guy who has a chance to hit for power. It's more power over hit right now. Again, you have to be patient with this. He's going to have to work on his approach a little bit more. A lot of scouts say he's raw at shortstop, but he has a chance to stay there. He's got a good arm. He moves well. So I think the Phillies give him every opportunity to stick there, but know that if they needed to, they could probably throw him out in the outfield, and that athleticism will play really well.
So back-to-back shortstop selections after the Twins take a shortstop as well. And Baylor, by the way, for the Phillies, ranked number 161 overall by MLBpipeline.com. We'll go to the Angels. This is pick number 92 in round 3 of the 2019 MLB Draft, and it is...
The Angels select draft ID 5455, Jack Kochanowicz, right-handed pitcher, Harriton High School, Rosemont, Pennsylvania.
Jonathan's making a run right now here in round 3.
I'm staying busy. This is kind of an interesting guy in terms of watching to see. He wasn't one of the top guys that we talked about during our preview, but he does have that commitment to Virginia. But he's an interesting Northeast guy. He's got a 3-pitch mix. I think he's going to throw harder. He is every bit 6'6", but I think there is the ability to add strength. And he'll be up to 95 with good riding life up in the zone. He's got good downhill plane. He extends well He uses his size well overall. Good spin rates on his curveball. I think that could be a plus pitch when all is said and done. And there's a changeup in there too. It's too firm, but high school kids don't throw that changeup all that often. You'll hear that a lot from us today. I think that will increase once he gets into the pro game and the Angels force him to throw it just so he can get a better feel for it. But 3 pitches are in there for a starter profile.
And sometimes at that height takes a little bit more time to get it all together, but big upside usually.
He does a nice job throwing strikes considering his size and the fact that he's from the Northeast with the bad weather.
And just at that age too. The Arizona Diamondbacks are up next.
Arizona selects draft ID 5589 English Tristan, a first baseman from Georgia Tech, Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, that's the Diamondbacks pick. Tristan English is the name. Georgia Tech is the school, number 143 overall on MLB.com.
Yeah, in case people were wondering, we divide these guys up geographically, so that's why Jonathan had his long run. Tristan English, really interesting, two-way guy at Georgia Tech. There were some guys who liked him more as a pitcher coming into this year. He prefers hitting to pitching. He had Tommy John in the past. In 2017, missed the entire season, but he can really, really hit. He moves well for his size. As he's focused more on hitting, he's done better. He's turned his strength more into power production. He's making good and better contact from the right side of the plate. And I think when he's still closed and pitched in relief for Georgia Tech, when he's a full-time hitter, I think he's going to continue to develop even more. Even though he's a big guy, he can run close to average once he gets underway. He played first base at Georgia Tech to kind of save his arm, but he's got plus arm strength, obviously, on the mound, up to 95. This guy, I think, can play right field. He moves well enough and definitely has the arm for it.
Prefers hitting to pitching, but if it doesn't work out, you can always say, hey, I throw 96. Let me give that a shot. Let's go to the Nationals.
Washington selects redraft 3321. Mendoza Drew, a third baseman from Florida State University.
Jonathan, sometimes we say, can't wait until this player fills out. Well, this one's already 6'5", 230 pounds. He's got it right, body-wise. Physicality is there.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about with him. It is power and more power. It's definitely there. Left-handed. He's got home run pop that's going to work at the next level. He draws walks, which helps, but there's a lot of swing and miss. So he kind of had an up and down year this year. This is a guy who was a solid high school prospect, but had the strong commitment to Florida State. You could see the loft and the swing there from the left side. He's a decent third baseman. A lot of people think that range-wise, speed-wise, he might have to move over to first. Obviously, there's pressure on the bat in either corner, but you're buying a power bat here for sure.
And not necessarily the mechanics, the swing, but just the three true outcomes, the size of the player, how hard he hits the baseball. It's a Joey Gallo type of statistical player, or could be in that range.
Yeah, that's the kind of hitter. That's the kind of hitter he's been for Florida State.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are at pick number 95.
Pittsburgh selects draft ID redraft 8680 Matt Frazier, a center fielder from the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona.
Matt Frazier, one of the top players on your list heading into today, Jonathan.
I don't know that that's right, actually, but he's an interesting guy because he's a guy who's got some history of performing in Arizona, but got hurt early on. They saw him early and then maybe late again. So this is a guy who has a good track record.
Definitely there. Big time athleticism. We've been talking about that a lot, and the frame there already too. 6'3", 205 pounds. The St. Louis Cardinals have the 96th overall pick.
St. Louis. The St. Louis Cardinals select draft ID 2929 Losi Tony, a right-handed pitcher from the University of Georgia.
And this is an athlete, too, that has been selected by the St. Louis Cardinals, Jim.
He's one of the hardest throwing college pitchers in this class. Played high school baseball with Jake Fromm, which just intrigues me because I'm a Georgia grad, and Jake Fromm's done great things on the football field for the Bulldogs. But Tony Losi, big season for the Bulldogs baseball-wise. As a starter, He'll go anywhere from 92 to 97 miles an hour. You can see he's got a higher 3/4 arm slot here. He'll create some downhill plane. He keeps that velocity through starts. Well, some people project him in the bullpen, and they think he's going to be an easy 100-mile-an-hour guy if he goes to the bullpen. His slider can be really sharp, a solid pitch. He's got some shape on a curveball. He's more about power than finesse, strong and physical. He's got to do a little bit better job of repeating his delivery and commanding his pitches to remain a starter. If you put this guy in the bullpen, I think he gets to the big leagues real quick, focusing on that fastball and slider, and maybe hitting, like I said, hitting triple digits pretty easily in shorter stints.
Okay, there's a changeup there, but he can just refine things and go right to the bullpen and get there quickly.
Yeah, I think they're going to develop him as a starter, but that's the nice fallback.
What do the Mariners have for us?
The Mariners select draft ID 6142, last name Stout, first name Levi, a right-hand starter from Lehigh University, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
And I'll be that guy, Jonathan, to point out that we have a first-class name here being selected by the Mariners.
You like that? You like Levi Stout?
I'm in.
It's pretty good, and he is kind of stout. 6'1", 185, strong. As 3-year starter at Lehigh. He's got as many as 4 pitches. Decent fastball, sits around average. Can reach back for a tick or two more. It flattened out a little bit this year, and it was the Patriot League. But he's got a slider. He's got an above-average changeup. That's probably his best pitch. He gets swings and misses with it, at least against the league he was in, which obviously we're not talking a powerhouse conference. But it's kind of interesting. Now, size-wise, the question is whether or not he will add some more strength to his lower half with what he needs to do. Maybe he ends up in the bullpen. We'll see how the durability plays out. But there are the makings of 4 pitches here to give him a chance to start.
A strong Cape Cod summer last season, and also looks to become, or he is now, the first Lehigh player to reach, or would be the first Lehigh player to reach Major League Baseball since Mac McBride, who was picked in the 31st round in 2006. Here's the Atlanta Braves selection.
The Braves select ID 8863.
I think they necessarily would as a guy coming out of high school, but to your point, I thought he was more of a pitcher coming into the year, and he kind of became more of a hitter as the spring rolled around. But on the mound, left-hander, 89-93, he's got decent curveball and changeup. At the plate, it's even better. He's got a nice swing. There's power potential in there. It's a strong 6-foot, 190-pound frame. Solid runner. You could project this guy to maybe play center, definitely play right. And really intriguing. I don't think you would two-way a high school player because it's so difficult, and the level of competition is going to be so much different coming out of high school. But he definitely has promise both ways.
When we have a Shohei Ohtani in Major League Baseball, who's not pitching this year, but we have a Brendan McKay of the Tampa Bay Rays who can hit and pitch. That's going to be one of my goals, is to see every once in a while if I can find another two-way player to enter a system from you guys. Just giving you a heads up.
Jared Walsh of the Angels.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. There's another one also in the Angels organization. Let's go to the Tampa Bay Rays. Their 99th pick overall is...
Tampa Bay selects draft ID 4663, Shane Suzaki, center fielder, Iolani High School, Honolulu, Hawaii.
Hawaii is your region, Jonathan.
Yeah,
have you gone there to see him personally?
Yes, I make sure that I always scout Hawaii extensively. Best player out of Hawaii this year is committed to Cal Poly, but it sounds like he won't be going there. He runs well. He does everything relatively well without necessarily a plus carrying tool. But the ball jumps off his bat. Sneaky pop for a guy who's not the biggest guy in the world. Is solid all-around player. And you have to see if maybe one of those tools sort of takes a step forward, especially as he starts filling out physically. Grows into his man strength, as they like to say. But nice all-around tool package for an outfielder.
Yeah, we've gone over a few players lately who already have this size. This is someone who's 6 feet, 160 pounds. So
needs to add some strength.
He's going to hit the weights, eat a little bit more. The Rockies up next. This is pick 100. We're in round 3 of the 2019 MLB Draft.
Colorado.
The Rockies select draft ID number 3880, Wallace Jacob. He's a right-handed pitcher from the University of Connecticut.
And now you travel all the way back from Hawaii to Connecticut, and you scout Jacob Wallace, and what do you see, Jonathan?
I'm a little jet-lagged. If I were to have to pick, a lot of time we get asked for quick to the big leagues, we look for college relievers. This is a guy who could be at that level. I mean, we're talking a really good fastball, 70 fastball on the 20 to 80 scale, up to 98 consistently. He can rush his delivery at times, so he doesn't get on top of his slider enough. When he does, that may be a plus pitch. So now we're talking about fastball slider plus, and he throws a decent amount of strikes. So, saved a ton of games for UConn. He was closing in on their all-time saves record. I don't know if he got there, but you can see there the strikeout total's high. A lot of times these college closers, they walk a ton of guys. That's why he was in the bullpen, but he actually commands the ball pretty well. So I think he has a chance to pitch late in ball games for a major league team in the not-too-distant future.
He pitched in the Cape League last summer, 21 strikeouts in 14 1/3 scoreless innings and 7 saves. He was one of the big-time relievers last summer that was highly talked about. Number 116 overall on the MLBpipeline.com list. The Cleveland Indians coming up next year in round 3.
Cleveland selects draft ID 304, Naranjo Joseph, first baseman, Ayala High School, hometown Chino, California.
Jonathan, what are the Cleveland Indians getting?
A bat. I mean, he can really, really hit. I had an area scout tell me that he was kind of a sneaky, one of the lesser known, one of the better pure high school bats, at least in his area, if not in the country. He hit over the summer. I think there's some pop in there for sure. Maybe a little hit over power right now, but you can see he's got the ability to turn on pitches and hit the ball out, especially to his pull side. He's probably a first baseman only. That limits his profile a little bit. This isn't a guy who you're going to say, well, maybe he'll play the outfield, although stranger things have happened. But he looks like a first baseman only, but you're really buying a really interesting pure bat with some power upside there.
We had this conversation with the number 3 overall pick, too. Similar size, and Vaughn going to the White Sox. Naranjo is in that mold to an extent.
I think to an extent. Obviously, he hadn't done it in the Pac-12 for 3 years.
Yes.
But yes, he can really hit.
The Los Angeles Dodgers have the 102nd pick, round 3 of the 2019 MLB Draft. Scott Braun, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo, and we're listening to the Dodgers.
Los Angeles Dodgers.
Dodgers select draft ID 655, Ryan Pepio, a right-handed pitcher from Butler University.
Ryan Pepio is the name, and also out of Butler University was Pat Neshek back in the 6th round of 2002. So there's been some names out of Butler.
Yeah, Pat Neshek was the highest pick in Butler history. Ryan Pepio has now passed him. Had a really nice spring. He's got one of the best changeups in the college ranks. Low 80s with fade, and he really sells it well with deceptive arm speed. And he sets it up because he can throw 91, 94, touch 96 with some riding action on his fastball. So if you're geared up to hit that and he unleashes that change on you, and again, he throws it with the same arm speed, it makes it very, very difficult. Curveball and slider kind of average. He tailed off a little bit toward the end of the season. I thought he was actually going to go in the 2nd round, if the draft were maybe 6 weeks ago. But I think this is a really nice value in the 3rd round. There's some crossfire in his delivery. It gives him deception, but also hampers his strike throw ability a little bit. But this guy, 6'3", 205, it's a definite starter.
Yeah, I did the best tools story this year, and we actually listed him as the best changeup in this draft class.
Wow.
Just that one pitch. Not to say with the other stuff, but it's a really, really good changeup.
Let's go to the Chicago Cubs, pick 103.
The Chicago Cubs select draft ID 6692, McAveen Michael. He's a right-handed pitcher from the University of Louisville.
And Louisville was excited to get this pitcher back in 2016 when they recruited him.
Yeah, he was the top pitcher in the recruiting class. He was actually having a pretty nice role as a freshman before he wound up getting hurt, had Tommy John surgery, wound up coming back. He's the Cardinals closer this spring. What's interesting about him is your 3rd round is kind of where you start to hear the college relievers. The best college relievers start to go here. He's one of them. And of the best college relievers this year, he might have the best chance to be a starter because he's 6'3". You can see here it's a pretty strong looking frame. And he's got pitches. He's 93, 95 coming out of the pen. riding action on the four-seam fastball. He's not overthrowing as much. He's showing more polish this year. He's got kind of a hybrid breaking ball, but it's not a slurve. It's the good hybrid breaking ball where it's the slider power, the curveball depth, rather than the other way around. And he's got some feel for a changeup. Hasn't really used it a lot, but I think when you look at the body there, even though he's had success as a reliever, you could go either way with him. You could move him quickly, keeping him in the bullpen, or, like I said, I think of the top college relievers, he might be the best bet to be a starter at the next level.
46 strikeouts to 9 walks. Excellent K to walk ratio. And we'll go to the Oakland A's pick.
Oakland.
Oakland selects draft ID 7421 Smith Marcus, a center fielder from Pembroke Hill High School.
Does it make sense that a team like the Oakland A's would go with a player like this, somebody who has plus speed, center field, Marcus Smith, coming out of Pembroke Hill High School in Kansas City?
Yeah, no, he's really interesting. He was one of the faster players in my half of the country. I have most of the Midwest. I have the Midwest and most of the Southeast, minus Florida. Jonathan has the other half. But he's a 70 runner, twitchy athlete, good center fielder. Has some pop, too. I mean, he's going to need to be more consistent at the plate. He hasn't faced a lot of top amateur competition. But it's a really interesting package of athleticism, and you're hoping you can refine the bat.
And I mentioned that because the first pick overall last year for the Oakland A's was Kyler Murray. So they definitely were reaching for one of the best athletes overall in the country for any sport.
That's true. That's true. And they're not afraid to do that anymore. You know, I think there's this misnomer now that they think they're like all college performers, and they don't do that quite as frequently as people think they do.
Okay. The Yankees are up next, the third to last pick of the third round.
New York Yankees.
The New York Yankees select ID number 1296, Sanford Jake, center fielder, Western Kentucky.
Is this true? His lone college offer was to play volleyball at a local university?
I wrote that, so of course it's true, Scott. I wouldn't be making stuff up. But yes, he's from Nova Scotia. This guy's fascinating. From Nova Scotia, had an offer from Dalhousie University to play volleyball, walked on in McCook, Nebraska Community College, which is in far west Nebraska, Wood Bat League. Good numbers for 2 years. Nobody saw him. Transfers to Western Kentucky, becomes the first regular season Conference USA Triple Crown winner ever. 402, 22 homers, 65 RBIs. He has unbelievable batting practice. If you did batting practice as a tool, he would have been best batting practice in this year's draft class. He can crush the ball to all fields. It's bat speed, it's strength, it's leverage. The bat's just very quick. And what's interesting is he can show you plus run times, too. He's not going to be a base stealer, but he really opened a lot of scouts' eyes. It was, you see the transfer from McCook, Nebraska Community College, which has no real tradition. He wasn't on anybody's radar, and all of a sudden it's like you watch this guy take BP, and you're like, whoa, and then you watch him run, and you're like, this guy's a dude, and the Yankees obviously thought so.
And if you have a day off and you're hanging with him, go play some volleyball. Let's go to the Astros.
The Houston Astros select draft ID 5884, Brewer Jordan, center fielder, University of Michigan.
Jordan Brewer out of the University of Michigan going to the Houston Astros. And Jim, this is your guy. Now you're making the run.
Yeah, and this is interesting. We had these guys actually ranked back to back. We had Sanford 107 and Brewer 108 on our draft list, and they went 105 and 106.
How about that?
Team's obviously looking at our list.
Yeah, of course.
That must be it.
He's kind of the Sanford of Michigan. This was a guy who wanted to go to Michigan. He had football interest as a wide receiver, but dislocated his shoulder as a senior. He wound up going to Lincoln Trail Community College to play baseball. Comes back to Michigan this year, or gets to Michigan this year, and all he does, Scott, is he wins the Big Ten Conference Player of the Year award. He's got a chance to have solid tools across the board, well above average speed, plus raw power. Could be a 20-20 guy. What I like about him, he doesn't try to do too much at the plate. He just lets his tools play. He's got good bat speed from the right side of the plate. He's played first base this year a little bit because they needed him there. He's played mostly right, but he can play center legitimately. Needs to get the instincts a little bit better. He's got an average arm, which for a center fielder is better than average because most guys out there can't throw very well. Really exciting athlete and a great year.
And we're moving on to the Boston Red Sox to finish the round.
Boston selects draft ID 7642, Zephyr John Ryan, a right-handed pitcher, Kansas University.
Boston selects
number 84, according to MLBpipeline.com. And what is he bringing to the table for Boston?
You know, it's interesting. If he were signable out of high school, he would have gone around the same range. He was part of that crazy deep Kansas high school pitching crop a couple years ago. Riley Pint went 4th overall. Joey Wentz got a $3 million bonus. Cole Bensing nearly doubled his slot value. He wanted to go to college. He's inconsistent, and that's why he's going to the 3rd round. But when he's on, he could be 93, 98 miles an hour with a fastball. He throws from the low 3/4 slot. That makes it tough to stay on top of the slider. But when he does, it can be up to 87 and be plus with hard bite. There are times when his changeup's better than his slider, so you can see 3 pretty interesting pitches out of him. Not very consistent. He is athletic, so he should be able to throw strikes, but it's all about that arm slide. He'll get under his pitches sometime. They flatten out. He doesn't command them as well. The strike throwing kind of comes and goes. You know, he, at one point in April this year, he gave up 9 runs against Texas Tech in one outing, and then he comes back and strikes out 14 against Oklahoma State. So I'll be curious to see where his career takes him, whether it's starter, reliever. You definitely, with the athleticism and the 3 pitches, you're going to give him a chance to start. He might be a lightning, bolt in the bullpen late innings if he goes there.
We're on round 4 now.
The Orioles select draft ID number 100 Ortiz Joseph, shortstop from New Mexico State University.
Baltimore selects.
This is Joey Ortiz out of New Mexico State. And Jonathan, what are the Orioles getting with their first pick of round 4?
It's a good round for the Aggies. Kyle Bradish came from New Mexico State in the 4th round last year. He can play short. You talk all these college shortstops, well, maybe they'll move, maybe they won't. He's going to stay as short long term. He's a plus defender. He's got really good hands, good first step quickness, and he's got enough arm to stay there. He's hit. He's got a good overall approach, excellent contact skills. He hit over 400 for the spring. I think he'll hit for average at the next level. The power numbers you see are largely, I think, because of where he plays. I don't think that's going to transfer to the next level, but there may be a little sneaky pop considering he's kind of undersized, but he's plus work ethic, plus makeup kind of guy who has a chance to sort of outplay his tools at a premium position.
And a Brooks Wallace Award finalist, a great college player. Yeah, you're hitting 422 this season. Congratulations to Joey Ortiz, the first pick in the 4th round, and now we go to the Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City.
Kansas City Royals select ID 621 Massey Michael, second baseman, University of Illinois, hometown Hazel Crest, Illinois.
And Jim, I do see that Michael Massey spent the first half of this season as a DH battling some back issues, and now he's back to the field.
Yeah, he is, and super consistent fielder. He went 60 games in a row without making an error at second base in 2017, 2018, and then this year did not make an error during the regular season once he got back to second base, and he did get back there in the second half of the year. He's kind of your classic, second base type prospect. Not a flashy tools. His best tool is probably his ability to make contact. He hits line drives from gap to gap. It's great hand-eye coordination. He really knows the strike zone. Hit with Wood in the Cape last year. It's not going to be power. He does barrel the ball. If he gets more aggressive, maybe you could get him to 10 or 12 home runs. Average runner, so he's not going to be a big base stealer. But he's going to get base hits for you, and he's going to make all the plays at second base. The arm's average. He's got good range there, great hands. He might be able to play shortstop. Maybe it would be more of a utility role, but that could expand his horizons. And, it's not wild tools, but he's just really reliable. Probably one of the more consistent players in college baseball.
And the Royals went heavy on college players last year. 4 of their first 5 picks this year, also college players. The Chicago White Sox have the next pick.
White Sox select draft ID 2950 Beard James, center fielder from Lloyd Star High School, Brookhaven, Mississippi.
Word association. When I say James Beard, you say?
Restaurants.
Restaurants. That was good. Yes. And in the baseball world, what's the tool?
I was going to say speed.
There
I was
you
going to
go.
say
You're both correct.
He's the fastest player in the draft. He got clocked in a 6.21 second 60-yard dash at a prospect development pipeline event, which is run by MLB, so we know that's a legit time. 6.21. If I say fastest player in draft, high school outfit from Mississippi, who are you thinking of? Am I stumping you?
Fastest player.
Billy
was a
Hamilton.
shortstop back then.
Oh, Billy Hamilton.
Well, he was a shortstop. He didn't know he
Yes.
was a shortstop in high school.
No,
Come
I
on.
did because I drafted him in my fantasy baseball
But
league when
anyway,
he was in the minors. Yes.
He's about speed. He's a guy who Mississippi, very deep class. We might see 10 or 12 Mississippi players drafted here on day 2, high school and college, even the junior college guy we have our eye on. Quick quick right-handed swing. He's got some strength. I don't think he's just going to be a slappy guy. He can backspin the ball a little bit. He manages the strike zone. I mean, speed's going to be his tool. Needs some refinement, but this guy could be a great asset in center field, wreak havoc on the bases, and give you a little thump at the plate. He might be a 10 or 12 home run guy.
And guys don't run like they used to, so I'm serious. Immediately, he's on the fantasy baseball radar.
There you go.
Are you drafting him?
Yes, I am. I promise that. Marlon's up.
Marlins select draft ID 7499 Edwards Evan, first baseman from North Carolina State University.
Miami selects Evan Edwards, a first baseman from North Carolina State.
And we are definitely going to go over some seniors that are selected in this rounds 3 through 10. And here's one in Evan Edwards from North Carolina State.
And is he the first senior selected today? I think he is.
So that's why I bring it up.
Yeah,
I believe it's the first senior I have on here.
We're going to see some super discount seniors toward the end of the draft. Evan Edwards, they're going to discount him here because he's a senior in the 4th round, but he was one of the best seniors available. So you're getting a quality player here, too. There are two things that really stand out with him. It's the power, and it's a very good defender at first base. This guy's hit everywhere he's been. He began his college career at South Carolina Lancaster, hit there. He's hitting his 2 years in the ACC at NC State. It's a strong swing. This guy performs. It is probably first base only. He's maxed out physically. He's not a great runner, but very slick fielder at first base. And not surprised. We talked about maybe doing a little open on seniors, and he was on the short list I gave to our producers of top seniors I thought would go today.
I had one more, Peyton Burdick, going to the Miami Marlins too, right?
Redshirt junior, I think.
Oh, redshirt junior, so that's different. Here's the Tigers pick.
The Detroit Tigers select redraft 8714 Creedler Ryan, shortstop, UCLA.
Okay, Jonathan, a shortstop out of UCLA. Ryan Creedler is the name, going to the Detroit Tigers, and this is number 200 overall on your list.
Yeah, obviously playing for one of the best teams in the country all year at UCLA, and kind of a glove over bat guy initially. And my original reports on him were that he was going to play third because he's kind of big, but he moves really well for his size. He's got a plus arm. A lot of people think he can stick it short, sort of like a Tulo kind of defensive profile.
Wow.
He doesn't hit like Tulo, but just in terms of, you look at him, you think, well, I'm not sure that's going to work at short, and then it does. And he's done better with the bat this year. There is some power that he started to tap into. I think it's more power over a hit. So I think he has a chance to maybe be a run producer if it comes together, and he's a natural leader. So put him in the middle of that field. If he can stick it short, then there's less pressure on the bat. If he has to move to third, then obviously he's going to have to be that run producer that he has a chance to become.
232 in his first 2 seasons at UCLA, and then gets over 300.
Big step forward.
Yes, big step. Here's the Padres pick.
Padres select draft ID number 2190, Brash Matthew. He's a right-handed starter, Niagara University, Lewiston, New York.
And this is a pitcher, Jonathan, who has dominated the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference this season.
He was able to shake off an injury from his sophomore year, so he kind of fallen off the radar. Obviously, pitching up at Niagara, it's hard to get on the radar to begin with, but had a really, really good year. A fastball that'll touch the mid-90s at times. He'll show a very good slider. He needs to be more consistent with that. With the 2 pitches, he probably moves to the bullpen. He's also not the biggest guy in the world. But if you shorten him up, then we're talking maybe mid-90s more consistently, and he can work on that slider and get it up to above average or plus. Then he becomes a really interesting bullpen piece if that's the direction that the Padres want to move in.
MAC Pitcher of the Year. Congratulations to Matthew Brash as he's selected by the San Diego Padres. We're at number 114 overall, the Cincinnati Reds. Round 4 of the 2019 MLB Draft. I'm Scott Braun, Jim Callis, and Jonathan Mayo from MLBpipeline.com. We'll do the Reds, then the Rangers, and the San Francisco Giants as we keep rolling along here at rounds 3 through 10. We're in round 4, and Cincinnati's pick is...
Reds select ID 6221 Johnson Ivan, second listed as the second baseman. He's from Chipola Junior College, hometown Atlanta, Georgia.
And he's ranked number 133 on MLBpipeline.com.
Yeah, former Georgia Bulldog, as Jim Callis would attest to, but he couldn't crack that lineup. It was too deep, so he switched to Chipola, and a really, really good move for him. He really hit this year. I think he has a chance to hit for average and power, and that's what's going to carry him. really good power from the left side of the plate, and a good right-handed swing. It's just more gap power than over the fence power. He's moved to second because they had a better defensive shortstop. Interesting, they announced him as a second baseman because there was some talk that maybe you try him at short to see if that works. But he's a pretty solid defender at second base when all's said and done. Chipola, obviously a really good junior college program, and he took a big step forward this year after not really being able to get on the field for the Bulldogs in his freshman year.
Yeah, you look at Chipola, for example, back in 2017, they had 5 players in the top 10 rounds. We kept saying their name. I remember that. The Texas Rangers coming up next with pick number 115 overall here in round 4, and that pick is
Texas.
Rangers select ID 5664, Freeman. First name Cody. He's a shortstop from Etiwana High School, hometown Rancho Cucamonga, California.
And I remember saying his brother, or talking about his brother, Tyler, last year, his older brother, a supplemental second-round pick of the Cleveland Indians. So what is little bro Cody like?
Tyler's a really good player in the Indian system right now, off to a very good start. He's got a good approach at the plate overall. It's contact-oriented, hit over power right now, but I think he may have some sneaky pop as he grows a little bit. He's never going to be a huge power guy based on his size. Likes to run, good instincts on the bases. I think he probably has a chance to stay at short, but if you move him to second, then maybe he's a plus defender at second base.
You just described, it sounds like Tyler Freeman all over again. And that was the exact same scouting report out of high school, and now 2 years later, Tyler Freeman's a top 100 prospect.
Yeah, so I guess they grow him well in the Freeman family.
That's not often the case, though. When we talk about brothers, we'll say this brother does this really well. This brother does this really well.
Well, look at the Bishop brothers. Right? Braden Bishop is an outstanding defender who runs well and gap power, and Hunter has got tremendous home run thump. Speaking of Hunter Bishop, the San Francisco Giants are on the clock.
They're up. That was easy for me.
Giants select redraft 3937, Tyler Fitzgerald, shortstop, University, Louisville.
And what's unique also about the bloodlines here, his father was a 2-time first-round choice, 1983 and then in 1984.
Yeah, and back then you had 4 different drafts going. So he was in the 1983 January draft and the 1984 June secondary draft. So neither is quite analogous to this draft, but his dad caught briefly in the big leagues. Tyler is a guy, he's from Illinois. I'm based up there. Scouts loved him out of high school, thought he had a chance to be a very good pick after 3 years at Louisville. That's exactly what happened. It's not loud tools, but he's a very steady player. He's gotten better offensively every year. It's contact to all fields. He's starting to drive the ball a little bit more. He's 6'3". I think there's more power in there if he changes his approach a little bit. He'll show you 50 to 55 speed on the bases with good instincts. Not the rangiest guy, but again, it's instincts. It's short. He's got reliable hands. He's got a good arm. He makes accurate throws. It'll be interesting to see where he winds up because it's not like a classic shortstop profile, and I think he probably has to hit for a little bit more power if he's at second or third, but he also might make a good utility man. He can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's definitely a word that's no slouch anymore, super utility. Let's go to the Blue Jays.
Toronto selects ID number 3327, Will Robertson, right fielder, Creighton University.
Toronto. We'll stay in the Midwest area there, Jim, with Will Robertson going up north to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, he's got a lot of power. I mean, left-handed power is his ticket. He almost won the Big East Conference Triple Crown last year as a sophomore, had a really good Cape League. I thought coming into the year he had a chance to go in the first round. He's kind of streaky. That's why we're seeing him here at this range. It's a really nice value. We had him ranked as the 81st best player in the draft. He's got bat speed. He's got power. Creighton plays a lot of games at TD Ameritrade Park, which they use for the College World Series. The ball doesn't carry there. I think it masks his power a little bit. It's definitely power. Arm's okay. He's probably a left fielder at the next level. Below average runner, adequate left fielder, maybe gets up to average there. But this guy, you put him in the right situation, this could be a 25 home run guy from the left side of the plate.
Did you put a comp on him of a player that we talked about last year?
The profile was similar to Trevor Larnach.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a perfect comp, but Trevor Larnach had a better junior season, but they're kind of like that was kind of the similar mold.
He was last year's 20th overall pick out of Oregon State. The Mets have a pick up next.
New York Mets select redraft 4142 Mangum, Jake, center fielder, Mississippi State.
New York Mets select Jake Mangum, a center fielder from Mississippi State.
Okay, so this is a senior sign for the New York Mets. Makes sense, given that they're going to have to give a lot of money to their previous pick.
Yeah, after taking Matt Allen, I wonder if they're going to go heavy seniors. But this is like Evan Edwards. This is a quality pick here, not just you're not signing Jake Mangum for $10,000. He's the all-time SEC hit leader. He's been draft eligible the last 3 years. He's got all kinds of football bloodlines. His grandfather, John Sr., his father, John Jr., his uncle Chris all played professionally. He won the SEC batting title as a freshman. He's just hit for 4 years. He's a switch hitter. It's a very extreme approach. It's all contact, very little power, a lot of opposite field singles, well above average speed. He's doing a better job of using that speed on the bases and in center field now as he's gotten more experienced. And he also has done some pitching previously in his career. He's up to 93 with his fastball, so it's a pretty strong arm. So the Mets, yes, I think they are going to have to go heavy seniors, but this is a quality senior.
Somebody who is 171 on MLBpipeline.com. This is the Twins pick.
Twins select draft ID 534, Gray Seth, third base, right state.
It's all you, Jim. Stay hot.
Yeah. Well, my half of the country is pretty hot. This is our second right state guy today. And right state also produced Sean Murphy. He's one of baseball's top catching prospects. Seth Gray, I think, is a little bit more maybe toolsy than Peyton Burdick. He's got plenty of strength, upped his power production as a junior. It's kind of a strength over bat speed. He's going to have to prove he can hit for power with wood bats. But you're talking about 6'3", 205, the left-handed hitter who can really drive the ball. He's got good plate discipline, moves well for a big man. I got that a little goofed up. Burdick is a better athlete, but Gray is a good athlete for his size, moves well on the bases for being a 6'3", 205-pound guy. I think he's going to be able to stick at third base, which is, so it gives you a little bit more defensive value than Burdick does.
Throw that comp out there. Or what do you got?
I don't know. I don't have a.
I saw Jake Lamb on that list. No. Maybe?
Yeah, sure. I think that could work. I want to go, but the thing that was interesting with Mangum is that the Mets drafted him a year ago, so sometimes those 32nd round picks seem meaningless, but it builds a relationship. They were clearly tracking him this year.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll stay NL East conversation.
Phillies select draft ID 4172, Miller, Eric, left-handed starter, Stanford University.
Good job.
Jonathan, 6'6", 240 pounds, somebody that we've actually been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, he was a good prospect out of high school, but everyone knew he wanted to go to Stanford, so he wasn't drafted. And that was one of the cases where a guy doesn't get drafted because of the commitment, not because he wasn't good enough, because obviously size and left-handedness, and pure stuff-wise, he checks off all those boxes. A fastball that he can get up to 96, 97 at times. It's been good this spring. He started off really slowly. I think that hurt him. The slider, that's also plus. He'll show an above-average changeup, and you can see I'm couching everything because he struggles with command and consistency. Is a little stiff on his front side, so it's hurt his command overall. I think that pure stuff-wise, he's right up there with some of the college lefties we heard yesterday. But because of the lack of consistency and the command issues, you have to see whether or not he starts or relieves. If he's a reliever, he could be really, really nasty with that fastball-slider combination.
And we know how valued relievers are in the game, more than ever probably in Major League Baseball. We're going to the Angels pick.
The Angels select draft ID 1185, Eric Rivera, two-way player, Puerto Rico Baseball Academy, Guarabo, Puerto Rico.
So Jonathan makes his stop in Hawaii each year, and then he goes to Puerto Rico, and he finds players like Eric Rivera.
It's tough. Jim gets to go to Indiana, so it evens out.
Wow,
really.
You're going to get killed by Indiana.
You wanted a two-way player?
Yes.
You got a two-way player, and this is the organization that that is more than willing to do it. It was a split camp. I was waiting to hear how the Angels announced it, and they're going to let him do both, it sounds like. And it's been clarified that he's a pitcher. So I rescind that earlier statement. But it wouldn't surprise me if they give him the chance at some point. On the mound, he's very, very raw. He's only been pitching for a little over a year, but it's a fastball that touches 95 and a decent curveball from the left side. And he's got some raw power from the plate. So if you want to try to do both, this is the organization that may give him the chance to do that, especially if he's, say he's struggling on the mound a little bit.
It would be cool if the Angels become an organization where they're very friendly to giving opportunities to players to be a two-way player.
Well, they took William English out of Michigan last year, I think, in the 5th round, and announced him as a two-way player. And even though I said tough to do with a high school player, they're trying to do it with William English a little bit. So I think the Angels may be as open as anybody, them and the Rays, to developing two-way.
Yeah, Rivera's so raw that maybe you let him focus on pitching for now, especially because the tool for his hitting, the power, will be there. Obviously, if he doesn't swing the bat for 2 years, then he's going to be way behind. But it'll be interesting to see how they progress with him. He sort of popped up a little bit as the spring wore on because of skills, albeit raw, on both sides.
Shohei Ohtani is going to be a mentor to many players now.
They should only have two-way players.
Yeah, only select two-way players. The Arizona Diamondbacks coming up at pick 122.
Arizona.
Arizona selects draft ID 2678 Hill Jr. Glenn Allen, a shortstop from Santa Cruz High School, Santa Cruz, California.
Yes, the son of Glenn Allen Hill, who slugged 186 home runs in 13 seasons in the majors and now manages the Rockies' AAA affiliate. But his son has a different profile.
He does, and it's interesting. We had him on our top 100 initially, and then he was a little inconsistent his senior year, which is why he moved down on the rankings to the back end. I know some area scouts who really love him because it's a nice combination of some raw tools, but because of the bloodlines, the nature versus nurture thing, there is some feel for the game. He can drive the ball. He can really, really run. Interesting that they announced him as a shortstop. We'll see if it works there. I think a lot of people think that he's going to end up playing out in center field or to the outfield somewhere. He did play there over the summer and looked pretty good for a guy who hadn't played there much. But send him out as a shortstop. I mean, he moves well. He doesn't have bad hands. I think it's just a question of whether the arm will play well and the instinct. So if I had to guess, he ends up out in center field, but you still have a pretty interesting up-the-middle player.
Listed at 5'9", close to 170 pounds. The Washington Nationals have the next pick.
Washington.
Washington selects draft ID 1969 Cronin Matt, a left-handed pitcher from the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville.
Hey, Jim, the Washington Nationals bullpen has been a little messy this year. How quickly can they use Matt Cronin?
Yeah, and this is a guy who is a pure reliever, and he's one of the best in college baseball, so he can get there pretty quick. And if you like spin rates, you love Matt Cronin because he's got outstanding spin rates on both of his pitches. 92, 96 mile-an-hour fastball, gets tremendous carry up in the strike zone. It's one of those fastballs that seems like it rises. And then when you're trying to deal with that, he has an over-top curveball. It could be a true hammer in the mid to upper 70s. There's effort and recoil in there, so you're not going to try to make him a starter. Arkansas's never really tried to do that. He had trouble throwing strikes early in his career, but he's doing a better job as a sophomore. Regressed a little bit this year. If he can throw strikes, he can get to the big leagues very quickly. Like you're not toying any idea of making this guy start. You're just saying go out there, do what you do, go after guys with that fastball and curveball, and you'll go as quick as your strike throwing ability takes you.
And the Nats certainly would take him up to the big league squad as soon as he's ready. That's another theme that I'll bring to the table, though. I'll try and get some guys up to the bigs as quick as possible. So congratulations to Matt Cronin going to the Washington Nationals, and we have the Pittsburgh Pirates at pick 124.
Pittsburgh selects draft ID redraft 3248 J.C. Flowers, a right-handed starter from Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida.
My search continues for the next two-way player in Major League Baseball, Jonathan.
They did not announce him as a two-way player. The Pirates don't have a history of that, but hey, maybe you're starting a deeper trend. It's obviously already a trend in some organizations. Yeah, he was a two-way guy. For most of his amateur career, he's really, really athletic. And I think that helps him. It helps him when he's out on the field, but it also helps him on the mound. Closed this spring. He did start once. Fastball's really probably low 90s at best. Everything's kind of inconsistent. He'll show flashes of a really good slider. He has a changeup. I think he probably is a bullpen kind of guy, but there's a lot of room for improvement. The one good thing when you take a two-way guy and then you have him focus on one thing, there's usually a leap forward, or there's an expected leap forward at least in that one thing, because once he focuses only on pitching, those things that have been inconsistent have a chance to become consistent, especially because of his plus athleticism.
That's the Pittsburgh Pirates at pick 124. This is 125. The St. Louis Cardinals, we stay in the NL Central for their pick.
Louis.
St. Louis Cardinals select draft ID 2856, Palante Andre, a right-handed pitcher from UC Irvine.
St. Louis.
And Jonathan, Andre was bringing it last year in his sophomore season for UC Irvine. 1.60 ERA last year.
Yeah, and then he stepped in as a Friday night starter this year. He's gotten better and better. You know, he was a bullpen guy early on. Last year, you said he jumped on the radar as All-American. You know, he's kind of interesting because he's not your typical starter size-wise. He's only 6 feet tall. It's not the cleanest arm action. But, you know what? He throws a lot of strikes. He repeats the delivery even if it's a little funky. He can get up to 96, 97. Will sit in the low 90s more often than not. There's some good life to it. He throws a slider and a curve. Some people think the curve may be better just to give a little velo differential from the fastball. He's got a changeup that he sells well, and he can pitch backwards. I think he has a chance to start. You know, maybe a number 4 type starter, even though the arm action and the size kind of point to a bullpen future.
And you can see the St. Louis Cardinals going with college pitchers in 3 of their 4 picks, trying to load that back up into their minor league system.
The Mariners select draft ID 7783, last name Elliott, first name Tim, a right-hand starter from the University of Georgia, Athens, Georgia.
Congratulations to Tim Elliott going to the Seattle Mariners with pick number 126, Jim.
Yeah, Elliott spent much of the season as one of the best midweek starters in college baseball, eventually moved into the Georgia weekend rotation because of injuries. Had a great season. Last outing he pitched, I think it was a 2-hit shutout in the regionals to keep Georgia alive before Florida State eliminated him. The stuff is pretty solid. It's 89 to 94. He'll show you an average slider, solid changeup, a lot of strikes. You know, it's 3 pitches, it's strike throwing. You know, it's not a big frame, but it's a strong frame. I mean, this is your classic, you know, number 4 or 5 starter you develop. Very versatile guy, you know, like a lot of college pitchers, broken in the bullpen, kind of served in both roles as a sophomore this year. Like I said, you know, very nice season as a starter and finished with a bang. You know, nice pick here for the Mariners.
And this is, you know, an organization that's looking to fill up some pitching in their minor league system, and suddenly you look at what they've done, and it's 5 picks, all college pitchers at the moment for the Mariners. We said Levi Stat's name back in round number 3. Here are the Atlanta Braves picking.
Atlanta. The Braves select draft ID 6213, Kalich Casey, right-hand reliever, Texas A&M University, hometown Victoria, Texas.
A relief pitcher at Texas A&M, Casey Kalich, going to the Atlanta Braves, who also can use a little bullpen help.
Yeah, no, he's interesting. He was a transfer from Blinn Junior College, had a really nice season for A&M, averaged about 14 strikeouts per 9 innings while serving as their closer. I've got him 90, 92, up to 95 miles an hour. He's got a real hard cutter slider that gets up in the upper 80s. He's another spin rate guy, so he tries to beat you up in the strike zone with a fastball, and then that cutter slider can be a really tough pitch too. Again, it's a pretty easy reliever profile. You're just going to keep this guy doing what he does. It's a 2-pitch guy. Control's okay. It's not great, so I don't think you're going to entertain any thoughts of trying to put him in a rotation. But, you know, you've got a right-handed reliever here with arm strength. He's got track record success at a high level of college baseball. So you throw him in a pro ball and see how quick you can move him along. I know you like to move your guys quick. We can't make this guy a 2-way player, but we can move him quick for you.
I have one of 2 goals right now.
You can't do both at the same time.
Yeah, you're not going to move quick and be a 2-way player. I'm fine with one or the other. Okay. I'm trying to address bullpen needs for the Atlanta Braves. The Tampa Bay Rays know how to grow some pitchers. Let's see what they do.
Tampa Bay selects draft ID 4283, Graham Stinson, left-handed starting pitcher, Duke University.
And they do go with an arm. It's a left-handed arm ranked number 70, according to MLBpipeline.com. Why is he so high on your list?
Well, he was even higher. He came into the season, ranked 9th or 10th?
Wow,
we had him as the
first-round guy.
We had him as the best college pitcher to 4-year college coming into the year. And like I mentioned, we were talking about top available guys. He only made 5 starts this year, pitched less than 20 innings, had a hamstring injury. When you saw him last year, it looked like this guy might have the best slider in the draft. It's mid-80s with 2-plane break. It can be a legit 70 slider at times. He also has fastball. It's 91, 96 with some sink, but he showed that as a reliever. That was in shorter stints, so the plan was to make him a starter this year, and he just couldn't stay healthy. It was a hamstring injury. Scouts wondered if it was maybe going to be more than that and see what happens with him, so there's red flags. He's It's not a great toned up body. He's 6'5", 260. So there were a lot of questions. Could he keep it together? Could he make it as a starter? He's yet to prove that, but there's a ton upside here. Very interesting. He'll be one of those guys I'll be curious to see what the bonus is when all is said and done.
Yeah, I like what the Rays have been doing, kind of high upside college guys.
Yeah, let's see what the Rockies do.
Colorado.
The Rockies select draft ID number 2668, Doyle Brenton. He's a right field. Shepherd University.
Shepherd University is a Division II program, Jonathan, but Brenton gets noticed for round number 4.
Is this our first D2 guy to go? It's possible it is, and it's interesting when a guy from a smaller program is, and you got to put up some serious numbers, and that's exactly what he did. He's hit for a high average throughout his time there. He's hit with wood in the Coastal Plain Leagues over the summer. He runs well. He defends pretty well. The only thing he hasn't done is face like top-notch competition. And that's the one thing when you go from a smaller program. So it may take him a little time to make that transition. But there's some really interesting tools here from a guy from a smaller college program.
Mm-hmm. And there you can see the numbers for him, obviously hitting close to 400. Power certainly there. Just monster statistics over at Shepherd, a D2 program, and getting noticed here at pick 129 by the Colorado Rockies. We're going to 130. That's the Cleveland Indians selection. We are more than halfway through round number 4 of the 2019 MLB Draft. Scott Braun, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo, and we are listening to the Cleveland Indians.
Cleveland. Cleveland selects draft ID 1496, Cairo Christian, shortstop, Calvary Christian High School, hometown Clearwater, Florida. He is the son of former major leaguer Miguel Cairo.
That's actually kind of making me feel old. Miguel Cairo, definitely in my wheelhouse, and it's his son, 17-year big leaguer. Christian is the name of his son, and he's listed as a shortstop.
And there's some similarities just in terms of sort of his instincts and feel for the game, not just because big league dad, but because of the way his dad played the game. Right, he's a heady player, could move around and things like that. Whether he sticks at shortstop, we'll see. But he does have good hands. He's got a solid arm. Just average speed may mean a move to second base where he might be really, really good. We'll have to see how he hits. He's got good bat-to-ball skills. He makes a lot of contact. Whether the power will be there at the next level, I don't think that's going to be a huge part of his game. The biggest question about him was how signable he was away from his LSU commitment. The fact that he's going now means that the Indians figured out how signable he is away from his LSU commitment. So I think he's clearly going to sign, and a guy who won't have that problem making the transition to the pro game because of his dad.
And his idol also, in terms of the position, he watches Francisco Lindor. That's a good guy to watch.
The Dodgers select draft ID 4521, Brandon Lewis, a third baseman from UC Irvine.
And Jonathan, this is a complete body transformation, upwards of 285 pounds in high school, and now he's listed at 6'3", 215.
Yeah, and this guy gets a lot of credit because he was that big coming out of high school, realized he wasn't ready for a 4-year school, even though he had the chance to go to a 4-year school, and decided to work on his body in junior college before moving on to UC Irvine, where he has shown the ability to hit for a lot of power. There is tremendous raw power in his bat there. Whether he hits enough, I think, will be the big question. I think this year he started to show that he has a chance to hit enough to tap into that power. Maybe he moves to first when all is said and done. He'll have to work on third base, but because he's kind of completely changed his body type, he has a chance to stay at third base.
I'll throw some names out there. Ryan Healy, C.J. Crone, Rhys Hoskins, to try and find some comps in terms of upside and potential.
Those all work. Rhys Hoskins, I think all those work. Maybe put him in left field. The Phillies did, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The Chicago Cubs select draft ID 8757, Clark Chris. He's a right-handed pitcher from the University of Southern California.
And this is pick 132 overall. Chris Clark is the name, Jonathan.
Yeah, he's another college reliever. Started off in more of a setup role, moved in and closed this year and did a really nice job. You see there, he's 6'7". Wow. Bullpen all the way. Fastball with good sink. He's got a really good curveball. That's probably his best pitch. He did have Tommy John surgery in high school, so we got that out of the way already. So he should be good to go. What kind of reliever he is at the next level, I think, depends on how the stuff plays up. Whether he can go back-to-back days. He's shown the ability to get outs, even if he doesn't have the premium velocity. But I think he continues to try to add some strength to that 6'7" frame. It's a really interesting fastball breaking ball combination out of a bullpen.
And handling a pressure role at a school that takes on many other very competitive schools, obviously, including UCLA, which the school had an outstanding season. So let's go to the Milwaukee Brewers, pick number 133 in round 4 as it winds down here.
Milwaukee.
Brewer select draft ID 2005 Cale Nick, catcher from the University of Washington, from Seattle, Washington.
And I immediately gravitate towards the strikeout to walk ratio. 59 walks, 28 strikeouts for the entire season. And that is excellent contact ability.
Yeah, and with that comes mostly gap power, but he stays inside the ball really well. He can turn on some pitches. I think maybe that will come a little bit more. Not a good runner, so he's not particularly agile behind the plate. He's gotten better with his receiving. He does block well. Good leader behind the plate, but you're buying the bat and believing that it's going to play at this level. I had the chance when he first got to Washington to learn from Joey Morgan, who's now a prospect in the Tigers system, and then took over as a starter. Really, really strong junior year to help him kind of move up the ranks into this neck of the woods.
MLB comp Kurt Suzuki of the Washington Nationals?
We're past my comp abilities, I think.
Okay, well, I'm just going to keep throwing the names
Jim,
out
he's got
there
some
and try and
NFL
get him
players.
excited. You got some NFL names for us later? Good.
I'm not comparing to Patrick Mahomes.
Oakland A's up next.
Oakland selects draft ID 240 McCann Kyle, a catcher from Georgia Tech.
Oakland select.
Okay, so you're not going to catch at Georgia Tech when Joey Bart is there, but then you have the ability to do that in your junior season, and Kyle McCann gets selected by the Oakland A's.
When he committed to Georgia Tech, they not only had Joey Bart in the class ahead of him, Tyler Stevenson was committed there, wound up being a mid-first round pick, and he's still signed there, but he got the chance to catch this year. He's hit for Georgia Tech. He's played other positions. This year he hit 23 homers, 4th in D1, entering the NCAA tournament, and that plus raw left-handed power, that's his biggest tool. You can see here, he's strong. He uses the leverage in that frame to drive the ball. There is some swing and miss. He doesn't have a big wood bat track record of success, so you're getting a power over hit guy here. Defensively, you get mixed reviews on his defense a little bit. You're getting an offensive catcher here. The teams that like him, I assume the A's are among them, that are going to give him the chance to catch. They're going to think he can stick behind there. I think ultimately you're looking at a guy who's probably an adequate receiver with an average arm, and you're hoping to get 20-plus home runs a year out of him.
Other standout catchers from Georgia Tech, Jason Varitek and Matt Wieters. Here's the Yankees.
New York Yankees.
The New York Yankees select ID number 5423, Agnos Jake, left-handed pitcher, East Carolina.
What are the Yankees getting in Jake Agnos, Jim?
Well, they're getting the first of probably 3 East Carolina players we're going to see drafted today. They have a couple hitters that are coming up. Jake Agnos can really pitch. I think he may wind up in the bullpen in the long run because he's a 5'11" guy. It's inconsistent command. A lot of college success, though. He was the American Athletic Conference Pitcher of the Year this year. Set the East Carolina strikeout record. He went into the conference tournament with 31 consecutive scoreless innings. He goes at you pretty much with 2 pitches, 88, 93 mile-an-hour fastball, tops it out at 95. He's got a quick arm. There's also effort in that delivery. His best pitch is probably his curveball, which can be a plus pitch with 12-6 break when it's on. He's got a decent changeup, not great feel for it, not a lot of strikes. I think you're looking at a fastball, curveball reliever here who probably is going to gain a couple miles an hour and be more of a 90, 95 mile an hour reliever with a really nasty curveball at times.
That's the Yankees pick, and he's ranked number 155 on MLBpipeline.com. And we're going to 136. This is the second to last pick of the fourth round of the 2019 MLB Draft, live on MLB.com.
The Houston Astros select draft ID 8320. Barber, Colin, center fielder, Pleasant Valley High School, Chico, California.
It's a strong junior season here as he came back from an injury in his sophomore year, a broken leg.
Yeah, really came back strongly from that after missing all the time. Did well over the summer as well. Kind of interesting outfield corner profile when all is said and done. He's a good wide stance kind of guy, but a quick swing. So he does get the barrel of the bat to the baseball on a consistent basis. He can drive the ball to all fields. He's got some plus 60-yard times, and he's a good base runner, and then gets some good reads and routes in the outfield. Probably can handle playing right field. Maybe left field is better. Really good makeup. So you give him a very high chance for him to make the most out of the tools that he has. The University of Oregon commitment, he could be a really good college player should he go there, but obviously we'll say this again and again. Chances are if he goes now, he's going to sign, so the Astros probably knew. They're getting a really nice combination of all-around tools and plus makeup.
And you're looking at what the Astros have done, all position players so far for them, and the last pick of round 4.
Boston selects draft ID 3080, Song Noah, a right-handed pitcher, Naval Academy.
We've spoken a lot about Noah Song, Jonathan, and now he gets picked right before we finish round 4.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and we'll have to see how this goes because of that naval commitment, where as of right now, he won't be available for 2 years. But, we're talking a plus slider up to 96. He maintains the velocity. It can be a little straight at times, but he really complements it well with an above-average slider. His curveball could be as good if he starts throwing it more. He mixes in at least an average changeup, and he threw a lot more strikes this year than he has in the past. His delivery is a little bit of an inverted elbow, so some people are concerned about that, but it really worked. He repeated his delivery this year. It's a starter profile all the way for him. It's just that question mark of when he would have the chance to pitch at the professional level. And you see, rightfully so, that he was one of the Golden Spikes Award finalists this year, along with the number 1 and number 3 overall pick and number 4 overall pick of the draft.
A very unique case, and Knox on Twitter saying a very good analysis there, Jonathan. Getting a lot of feedback here at Scott Braun on Instagram or Twitter if you have more information on these guys. And if you have the cell phone number of either of these two and you have info, go for it. Let's go to round 5.
The Orioles select draft ID 3322, Ernest Darrell, shortstop from America's High School, El Paso, Texas.
Okay, Jim, this is pick number 1 of round number 5 for the Baltimore Orioles, 17 years old, and what does he bring to the table?
He's really interesting. He's kind of in the Four Corners area of Texas, so not as seen as some of the other kids in Texas, but he did make the rounds on some of the showcases. He does a lot of things. He's an athletic shortstop. He's got potential with the bat. It's going to be, he's got some bat speed. I still think it's going to be hit over power, but it's not going to be like it's no power at all. You could get, 10, 12, maybe 15 home runs in there. He can run a little bit. He's got solid arm strength, plus arm strength from some scouts. He picks it, throws it well. You've got all the tools you want here. It's a nice little shortstop starter kit and some good size too, 6'1", 180. So I like this pick.
Yeah, going for some upside here in round number 5.
Yep.
Okay, so the Kansas City Royals coming up next. We are in round 5 now of the 2019 MLB Draft. Scott Braun, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo. We'll go Royals, White Sox, Marlins, Tigers, and keep going in that order. And that'll be the same order really from now up through the end of tomorrow. We go through round 40 tomorrow, live on MLB.com. We'll go up through round 10 today. Kansas City up next.
Kansas City Royals select redraft 6097, Rave, John, center fielder, Illinois State, hometown, Canton, Illinois.
I'm putting him on my name list too. Jonathan Rave for a good time for Kansas City.
You can call him John.
John Rave?
Yep.
Okay.
But he's an interesting guy. If you want speed on your fantasy team, Scott, here's another guy for you. Illinois State, some pretty good position players recently. Paul DeYoung, obviously, starring in the big leagues. Owen Miller was a third-round pick at the Padres last year. Here's John Rave. He's kind of going a transformation at the plate. He's more of a contact-oriented guy. His first couple seasons started driving the ball more last summer with wood bats in the Cape Cod League. He's hitting for more power this year. I think with the current approach, you may be looking at a 270, 15 home run guy. He's got plus speed. He'll flash some plus times. He's still learning as a base stealer, still learning as a center fielder, but he's got some potential in both areas. It's a pretty interesting guy. I mean, you have a guy who can definitely stay up the middle. Might be a 15 home run, 20 steal guy when all is said and done. And Illinois State keeps producing these really interesting position players.
And Kansas City keeps going with players like this. You look at the Major League squad, they definitely have guys that can run. So some players for John Rave to look up to in the organization. The Chicago White Sox have pick number 140.
White Sox select redraft 9883. Metzdorf, Dan, left-handed pitcher, Boston College, Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts.
The White Sox select Dan Metzdorf, a left-handed pitcher from Boston College.
Well, I was kind of hoping that Jim would be the first one to admit on air that he does not know a player. So this will be the first time. So I'm going to ask my friends in the Northeast and New England to let me know about this Boston College lefty, and we will backtrack and get to him when we can.
Yeah, and we'll look back at what the Chicago White Sox have done so far in this draft. And you go back to Andrew Vaughn, that's pick number 3 overall in the draft, a college first baseman, and then they go to Matthew Thompson with pick number 45 and number 69 on your list, and then number 65 on your list, which was one of the earlier names that we called, Andrew Dahlquist, is pick number 81 so far for them. So the Chicago White Sox trying to continue to rebuild and get their way back to postseason contention. It looks like they're getting close in that regard, and hey, they get to pick really high in each round of this draft. Let's go to the next pick.
Miami.
Marlins select draft ID 7919 Fitterer Evan, a right-handed starter from Aliso Miguel High School in Aliso Viejo, California.
Well, Jonathan, you've got this one for us for Miami.
Well, this guy was on our top 100. Committed to UCLA, and obviously will have to be signed away from there. But this is a guy with good command already of 4 pitches, and there's more in the tank. So you're talking projectability and now stuff. Been seen up to as high as 95, sits in the low 90s regularly, throws a 4 and 2-seamer. The 2-seamer's got really good sink and run at times, kind of cutter action. The curve and slider will blend into each other, but there's field of spin, so I think he probably sticks with one. Maybe the slider's a little ahead, but the curve is more of a contrast. The changeup might be a plus pitch when all is said and done. Obviously, it doesn't pitch again. The comp, because we love comps here, reminds some of kind of a young Kyle Hendricks.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Whether it gets there remains to be seen.
That goes against the grain, too, in Major League Baseball, where we're talking so much about velocity, and to get a Kyle Hendricks really brings something different to the table in the starting rotation. So that's the Miami Marlins pick in the top 100, according to MLBpipeline.com here. Detroit Tigers at 142. Their pick is...
The Detroit Tigers select draft ID 5597, Packard Bryant, left fielder, East Carolina University.
Okay, Bryant Packard to the Detroit Tigers, and this is somebody who has had a monster campaign over at East Carolina.
I told you we were going to get some more Pirates here in the draft. Not just Pittsburgh Pirates, East Carolina Pirates. But yeah, he had a unbelievable year as a sophomore. We hit 406 and had an ops of almost 1,200. He set school and league records with a 32-game hitting streak. He hit in the Cape Cod League with Wood. He hit again this year, had some back issues. He's one of the more polished college hitters, I think, you can find in this draft. He's got really good hand-eye coordination. He's got a disciplined approach, uses the whole field, makes contact. There's some quickness in his left-handed stroke. There's strength. There's leverage. He's got raw power. He hasn't tapped fully into it because he doesn't sell out. I like that. I like the guys who hit first, and you know the power's in there, and he can show you that power. He's almost all a bat guy. Could be a 280, 20 home run guy if he reaches his ceiling. the speed and arm strength, are more, kind of left field at best. Been a DH because of back issues this year.
We're moving on to the San Diego Padres.
Padres select redraft 7169 Lincoln Chris. He's a right-handed pitcher, UC Santa Barbara, California.
And Chris was taken by the Blue Jays in the 13th round 3 years ago, back in 2016. Ended up going to UC Santa Barbara and get picked much higher.
I'll go 2 for 1. We'll start with Lincoln. Struggled as a starter initially, moved into the bullpen, done a really nice job as a closer. More ticks in the fastball as a result, up to the upper 90s at times. There's effort in his delivery. He needs to work on the consistency of his slider. Some upside here, but definitely a bullpen piece. Going back to Metzdorf, senior guy out of Boston College, really performed well. Fringy to below average fastball. Maybe he'll touch a 90, 91. We'll sit around 89. Really good pitchability. He's a former hockey player, so he kind of pitches with some attitude. He really competes well. But he's the kind of guy that's more pitchability than anything else in terms of that stuff.
Talking about Dan Metzdorf, the White Sox number 140 overall pick, and we just went over Brian Packard too, 142 to the Detroit Tigers or to the San Diego Padres, or Chris Lincoln, that is. Now we'll go to the Reds.
Reds select ID 6019 Kravitz Evan. He's a left-handed pitcher from Rice University, hometown Miami, Florida.
Cincinnati selects Evan Kravitz, a left-handed pitcher from Rice University.
Yes, Evan Kravitz going to Rice University, pick number 144 to the Cincinnati Reds. Scott Braun, Jim Callis, and Jonathan Mayo. And this is a pick that, what do we have? Are we looking?
I'm efforting a little bit. Jonathan got his wish. I did get stumped here for a second. I think this is a senior, if I'm not mistaken, in Evan Kravitz.
Yes, it is.
And we've seen the Reds have gone, if I've kept track of the draft correctly, the Reds have gone Rhys Hines and Tyler Callahan, so we're going to have to save some money. Evan Kravitz, 88 to 92 mile an hour fastball, big 6'8", 240 guy, high three-quarters slot. He'll mix in a curveball there. This is a money saver to help you afford Rhys Hines and Tyler Callahan.
And a second-team All-Conference USA this year as well for the Cincinnati Reds. That's right. Yeah, Hines in there. Tyler Callahan as well. Those two going back-to-back for them, round 2 and round 3. That's it for the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to the Texas Rangers.
Rangers select ID 3979 Stram. First name Kellen. He's a center fielder from San Jose State University, hometown Eugene, Oregon.
For Texas, this is Kellen Strom, 22 years old, out of Eugene, Oregon, and not previously picked. All-Mountain West first-team selection, too.
Yeah, he's a guy who put up a back-to-back really good seasons, at San Jose State in the Mountain West. Got even better this year, hit for high average, can run well, good, field of hit, kind of sprays the ball around, not a ton of power. He'll chase on occasion, but it's really the speed that helps him. His instincts allow that speed to play up both in the outfield and as a base runner. So, interesting pick here for the Rangers as a guy with some tools and some speed and maybe a chance to play some center field. Probably profiles best as a fourth outfielder type.
And a senior, right? We have him down as a senior as well.
That I don't have.
No? Okay. I think a senior here for the Texas Rangers.
He was 22, so
yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that's the guess, right? Okay, let's go to the San Francisco Giants. Pick number 146 coming your way.
San Francisco.
Giants select draft ID 3225 Garrett Frechette, first baseman from Orange Lutheran High School.
Yes, and we've seen him in some big-time tournaments, and he cracks the top 200 on MLBpipeline.com for you guys.
Yeah, he did just barely. He's a really interesting guy. I saw him play at the NHSI. He had transferred to Orange Lutheran and then had mono, so had to sit out a bunch. So when I saw him in the spring, he hadn't gotten his strength back, but it kind of helped him rediscover the pure hit tool, which had really stood out over the summer. He kind of tried to sell out for power for a little while. I think there's power in there. I mean, 6'3", 195 pounds. It's a nice swing from the left side of the plate. he can play first and he can play a corner outfield, so you could probably move him around. San Diego State commitment, I wasn't sure how signable he would be, but again, I think that he goes now. Chances are he's going to sign if everything clicks. It's a Freddie Freeman type of profile. I'm not saying he's Freddie Freeman, but that's in there. I really like the left-handed swing.
Just saying the name gets Giants fans excited.
Sure.
And also the fact that they've taken all position players so far for San Francisco with their first 5 picks.
Toronto selects draft ID 2928, Tanner Morris, shortstop, University of Virginia.
We've been talking about some seniors. This is a draft-eligible sophomore from the University of Virginia.
Yeah, and he really raised his profile. He was an all-star in the Cape Cod League last summer, and then he kept hitting. And and the University of Virginia is obviously a very good program, and he's always hit. He should be able to hit for average at the next level. It's definitely more hit than power from the left side of the plate. He controls the zone well. And listen, the University of Virginia, it's hard to hit home runs there. You look at bats that come out of there, and there tends to be an uptick in power once you get to the next level. He's got the frame for it, so there could be some more pop. I think he's probably going to end up moving over to second base. The hands are good. It's just that he doesn't run that well. The range might be a little short. Maybe he's a guy who moves around. I think he could handle shortstop if you needed him to, but he's probably more of a guy who has a chance to be a good left-handed hitting, offensive-minded second baseman at the next level.
And his high school coach, Billy Wagner.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, that Billy Wagner.
That Billy Wagner.
Big-time closer. And the New York Mets, one of Billy Wagner's former teams, is up next.
New York Mets.
New York Mets select ID 2256, Jones Nathan, right-handed pitcher, Northwestern State University.
Okay, so the New York Mets going with Nathan Jones. And again, we're going to look, this is a senior, we're going to look back to the New York Mets and the strategy that they're going with as they select Matthew Allen with pick number 89 and on MLBpipeline.com, ranked number 13. This is somebody you guys said maybe in the $4 million range is what it would take to sign him.
That was the number that was being floated out in terms of that. Yeah, so
Okay.
they're obviously going to have to save some money here, and it does look like that's what they're doing.
Okay, so yes.
This just in on Nathan Jones, doing
What
a
do you
little
got?
scrambling here. He is a senior, low 90s fastball, kind of a 3-pitch for strikes type of guy. You know, it's not big stuff, but the guy knows how to pitch.
Okay, that's the Mets selection at 148, and they are up to 5 picks so far. We are in round 5, and the New York Mets are followed by the Minnesota Twins. Pick 149 here in the 2019 MLB Draft. Scott Braun, Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo, as we are getting close to the middle of round 5, and we will continue all day through round 10 today.
Twins select draft ID 1980, Holland William, shortstop from Auburn University.
Well, Will Holland's a name that we were talking about before this draft started. You had a feeling that he was going to go somewhat soon and early.
Well, I picked him to go 3-1. So
not that early. But
he went 5-13, so I was a little off there. He's a super interesting guy. This is a guy, if you told me at the beginning of the year Twins are going to take him, I would have said, okay, well, they're taking him with the 13th pick, 'cause that's where he was supposed to go in the draft. Did not have a great junior season, got a little too spread out in his stance, slowed his bat speed, had some holes in his swing. He did snap out a bit down the stretch, and he hit more power. But this guy, we talked about all these shortstops who went in the first round of the draft, all these college shortstops, or a lot of them were college guys. He had some of the best tools of that group, plus runner. He's got, close to, solid to plus raw power, solid arm strength, solid shortstop. You're not going to move this guy. I mean, this was a guy whose tools were going to put him somewhere in the teens at the start of the year, and just the performance didn't line up. So if the Twins can get him straightened out, this is an absolute steal in the 5th round. And like I said, the positive thing was he did show signs of kind of snapping out of it. I think you just get him more upright, and you're getting the guy who could have been a first-round pick.
And 3 of the 6 picks for the Twins have been shortstops.
Phillies select draft ID 615, Mayer Gunner, right-handed pitcher, San Joaquin Delta College, Stockton, California.
Gunnar Mayer, 6'6", right-handed pitcher, and he comes out of California, a JUCO, and not previously picked. Currently committed to Texas Tech, and best pitch is that low 90s fastball.
Yeah, and there's some upside here because he used to be an infielder, if you can believe it, at 6'6".
Wow.
And, it's still developing. He's up to around 94, maybe touch a 95 with a pretty good curveball to go along with it. He does differentiate between a curve and slider. He's new to pitching relatively, but he's a good athlete. The frame you talked about and the pure stuff. There is some upside here for a guy out of junior college. He would go on to Texas Tech if he weren't to sign here. But this is a guy who, considering how little he's pitched, he's already shown the makings of a really solid fastball breaking ball combination.
They probably looked at the size and said, "Hey, can you pitch? Want to give that a shot?" 6'6", 190 pounds, playing in the infield at least to start his career, and now moving on as a pitcher in the pro ranks.
Angels.
The Angels select draft ID 5653, Stallings Garrett, right-handed pitcher, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee.
And if you're paying attention to SEC baseball, you've seen him as a weekend starter for quite some time now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty much doing it for 3 years at Tennessee. He's not a pitchability lefty for you, Scott, but he's a pitchability righty. Can I give you a pitchability righty? Will you take that?
It's half credit.
Okay, half credit. But and what he does, he can just really pitch. There's no plus pitch here. He's 88 to 91. He'll touch a 93 with a fastball, but he really sinks and commands it well. So it's a very effective pitch for him. It works really well in concert with his changeup. Has the same kind of movement. He's shown a better curveball this year. He's got a slider cutter, so he can throw 4 pitches. Not a lot of margin for error, but he doesn't make too many mistakes. He locates, he manipulates the shape of his pitches, he sequences them well. He threw complete game shutouts against 2 of the SEC's better clubs, Georgia and Mississippi, this spring. They all kind of come out of the same tunnel, making it that much more difficult for hitters to figure out what's going on. There's deception there. I think this is a high floor guy. You're not going to see this guy in the front half of a rotation. But I think you could see him in the back half of big league rotation one day.
And this is an organization definitely looking for pitching in the Angels.
Arizona would like to acknowledge that our 4th round selection, Glenn Allen Hill Jr., is the son of former Major Leaguer and current Rockies AAA manager Glenn Allen Hill. Arizona selects draft ID, redraft 7985, Gramus Connor, a right-handed pitcher out of Xavier University, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Seeing a lot of cool things on this bio, including some wrestling titles, and then also the fact that he was a walk-on at Xavier, and he had to send him a little email and say, "Hey, pick me."
Yeah, no, he won 2 Virginia State wrestling titles and pitched 3 innings in high school. He had to email schools to try to get an opportunity somewhere, and really was more of a hitter first. He's got raw power. There's swing and miss, so he's going to be a pitcher. But man, you're talking a lot of velocity. I don't know if we don't see a radar gun reading there on that pitch, but he's 95 to 99 miles an hour as a reliever. Used him as a starter this spring. He's going to be a reliever as a pro, but he was 93, 95 as a starter. Doesn't always command it well, so it can get hit a little bit when he leaves it over the plate. His slider can be a sharp low 80s pitch. It can flatten out at times. Not much changeup, not much control. He was DHing this year. He's been a third baseman in the past. I think there's a lot of untapped potential for a college junior. This guy's been a two-way player. He started because the team needed him to log innings. I think this guy's going to go to the bullpen pretty quickly, focus on pitching. You may see 100 miles an hour pretty regularly.
And then he's going to pinch hit too, Michael Lorenzen style, right?
Good hitting.
Yeah, why not? No, they looked good.
Washington selects draft ID 3148, Dyson Tyler, a right-handed pitcher from the University of Florida.
Well, no surprise here, the University of Florida pumping out pitchers, especially in the last few years.
Yeah, not this year so much. This was a guy who some flashes of a plus slider. There's even a little feel for a changeup, though he doesn't use it really that often. He doesn't drive through the ball enough. I think if they can fix his delivery, it's probably a reliever profile, but it's a really good arm that kind of just lost his way this year in what was kind of a lost season for the Gators.
Okay, so we'll see how the Washington Nationals grow this pitcher development-wise within their system. Here's the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh selects draft ID 9412, Grant Ford, a right-handed starter from the University of Nevada, Reno, in Reno, Nevada.
This is a 6'1", 175-pound junior out of Nevada and hometown San Jose, California, not previously picked. A fifth-round selection, 154th overall to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we can go back and look a bit at what Pittsburgh has done, too, in this draft so far. The Pirates